So let's move on to, and this is not unrelated in many respects, but and it was recently in the news. But I want to move on to something that you've written on I think it was LouRockwell.com, and it was in the context of something else. But I think it's a really interesting point. You wrote that free association is a very important aspect of liberty. It's crucial. Indeed, its lack was a major problem with slavery. That the slaves could not quit. They were forced to associate with their masters when they would have had vastly preferred not to do so. Otherwise, slavery wasn't so bad. You could pick cotton, sing songs, be fed nice gruel, etc. The only real problem was that this relationship was compulsory. It violated the law of free association and that of the slaves' private property rights in their own persons. The Civil Rights Act of 1964 then, to a much smaller degree, of course, made partial slaves out of the establishments of the owners of establishments like Woolworths. Now, so you perceive in this instance that, you know, and I understand that you follow the guiding light, and tell me if I'm wrong on this. I give you permission to interrupt me if it's wrong, of the non-aggression principle. That is that everything is okay but for that which involves the threat of physical violence upon someone. And thus, the Civil Rights Act, which says you as a store owner must serve all comers who, or I should say, you cannot deny people based upon race, is encroaching upon their freedom in such a way that they've been made into partial slaves, because the defining aspect of slavery in this instance is the force to associate with people. Is that a fair assessment of what you've written?
Not only fair, but highly accurate. But before I answer that, and you've gone on about 5 minutes here, so give me.
Well, it's my show, to be fair.
Yeah, well, we're supposed to share. Let me just say that your summary of my views on empirical evidence is wrong. In my understanding, about 95% of all empirical evidence on the minimum wage shows that it creates unemployment for unskilled workers. Okay, now let's get back to this new thing. The new topic about slavery and the Civil Rights Act and free association. Let me read you something from Frederick Douglass, who, this is in 1882, he's a former slave. He's roughly the 19th century equivalent of, I don't know, Martin Luther King or Malcolm X, namely a leader of the black community, a scholar, a person with great effect on the black community. Here's a quote from Frederick Douglass. "My feelings were not the result of any marked cruelty in the treatment I received. They sprang from the consideration of my being a slave at all. It was slavery, not its mere incidence, that I hated. I had been cheated. I saw through the attempt to keep me in ignorance. I saw that slaveholders would gladly made me believe that they were merely acting under the authority of God in making a slave of me and making slaves of others, and I felt to them as robbers and deceivers. The feeding and clothing me well could not atone for taking my liberty from me." End quote. That's Frederick Douglass. What he's saying is that the essence of the evil, he's asking, why is slavery evil? And he was answering it roughly the way I answered it. Namely, it had nothing to do with picking cotton. It had nothing to do with eating gruel. It had nothing to do with, I don't know, living in a cabin, or nothing to do with singing songs or any of it. The key element of slavery was that it violated the law of free association, or the axiom of non-aggression. That was what was wrong with slavery. That was what I was telling the New York Times. And those people somehow got from that I thought that slavery was not so bad, which is a perversion of.
I'm not going to defend the way that the New York Times expressed your views. It's not relevant.
Sam, did I go on too long that time? Is that why you're interrupting me?
Oh, I apologize. Continue.
Right. Okay. So the key element of the evil of slavery was none of these mere incidents, as Frederick Douglass talks about. Rather, it was coercion. It was forcing people against their will to associate with you when they didn't want to. Now, let's take Woolworths, and a black person, Woolworths in 35 or 1930, 1940, whatever, Woolworths in the South. 50. A black person comes in and says, hey, what's for lunch? Or I'd like a hamburger. And the guy says, sorry, we don't serve black people. And what I'm saying is that if you compel Woolworths to associate with the black person in this way, what you're doing is you're violating the rights of Woolworths. Now, this really sounds horrible to our modern ear, isn't that evil? And again, I approach this from an economic point of view and from an ethical point of view. From an ethical point of view, it's very clear. People should be free to associate with whoever they want. The analogy I use is that if you deny this, what you're really doing is promoting compulsory bisexuality. Now, sit down. Don't interrupt. Let me make this point. The problem with male heterosexuals is that they discriminate against half the human race in terms of love partners or bed partners or whatever. Problem with female heterosexuals is that they too discriminate. They don't go to bed with other females. That's politically correct to attack heterosexuals. I'm now going to do something politically incorrect, and I'm going to attack homosexuals. Male homosexuals are evil discriminators because they too discriminate against half the human race, namely women. And lesbians also are evil discriminators because they discriminate against half the human race, namely men. It's only bisexuals who don't discriminate against anyone. So if you're going to logically say that nobody should ever discriminate against anyone, what you're really calling for is compulsory bisexuality. But even bisexuals, bless their hearts, as we say in the South, are evil discriminators because they too discriminate, not on the basis of gender, but on the basis of, lookism or a sense of humor or, intelligence or whatever normal people discriminate in favor of. So Woolworths should be able to discriminate too. Everyone should be able to discriminate. Everyone does discriminate. I mean, as I say, heteros and homos all discriminate, so nothing wrong with discriminating. Now, you might think...
Professor, wait a second. Now you have actually gone on...
okay, your turn.
But let me address this.
Your turn.
Don't you see there is a difference between an individual's sexual preference and a business that is engaging in economic activity and is using all of the resources that society has provided as well as a license to do business? Woolworths was a corporation by not in nature. Woolworths was a corporation because they registered with the state. And so when you say to a black person, you can't go in and eat at Woolworths, or let's use another example. When you say to a black person, you can't come in and buy my goods that you're looking to resell, you're actually preventing them from participating in the economy. And you are fundamentally hurting their ability to live, and even in your laissez faire capital world, to participate there. Now, so why is that not problematic to you? I mean, I understand this notion that it's a slightly different than just associating with one. It is actually about allowing someone to participate or not participate in the economy based on their skin.
First of all, I didn't say it wasn't problematic. I do regard this as highly problematic. I wouldn't do that. I think it's pretty despicable.
No. I know you wouldn't do it.
Hey, shut up. It's my turn now, isn't it?
Well, you're just mischaracterized what I said.
Is it my turn or not?
Well, you mischaracterized me, so I just wanted to...
And when it's your turn, you can correct me, but it's my turn now. You said that I thought it was not problematic.
No.
That's what you said.
I
think it is problematic.
Why?
And I don't favor this. I'm making a distinction between should these people be put in jail or not. Now, like, take this guy. What's his name? The Clippers guy.
Sterling.
Sterling, right. The question is, should he be put in jail? And I don't think he should be put in jail. Now, I think what he did... Hey, Sam, can't you control yourself a little bit?
Well, no, because no one's saying he should be put in jail.
Yes, the Woolworths would be put in jail if they violated the law.
This is different. This is a completely different situation. This is a totally different situation. I'm sorry.
Sam, I'm not
Stick
really
to the
enjoying
point. You keep avoiding
Sam, I'm
what
not really
I'm discussing.
enjoying this conversation.
I'm finding it tiresome too, because you will not address what I have said. It's okay, we can take turns here, but if you don't address what I say, then this is going nowhere, and I have to do a show here too, because this is not, we're just sitting at a bar. I mean, the fact of the matter is, I've asked you to address, how is it that you think that you're comparing heterosexuality and bisexuality and homosexuality, lifestyle choices, or I should say sexual preference, with a business refusing service to people based on their race? Now, please address that. How is that the same? Do you not recognize that someone engaging in commerce has a different liability? I mean, this is English common law, isn't it? That you have to serve all comers. This has been around for centuries.
I'll try to address it, but as soon as I start in, you interrupt, so it's really hard to get a word in edgewise with you. You know, do you play chess by any chance?
Occasionally.
Do you play with a clock?
No.
The way you play with a clock is when it's my turn to think, I hit your clock, or rather when it's your turn, I hit my button and your clock goes.
When we play chess, I promise to play that way, but let's go back to the point.
No, but the point I'm making now is if we were to, what do you call it, count how many seconds or how many minutes you had and how many minutes I had, I don't know, I think you'd have more, but I'm not sure.
When I come on your show, you can reverse it.
Okay, fair enough, fair enough. I'll let you keep interrupting me. I won't object. I'll let you keep talking, and I'll just take 10% of the time. I'll take whatever you can give me, Sam. Okay, let me now address the question that you make, namely, shouldn't we make a distinction between commerce and personal interactions? Is that fair to characterize your question?
Yes, specifically in the Woolworths case and yes.
Right. Okay, I say no. I say when it comes to putting people in jail, when it comes to rights, rights are no respecters of commerce versus personality. Look, if you rape someone in the business world, you're a rapist, and if you rape someone at home and in a personal setting, it's equally evil. If you murder someone in a business context, you're a murderer, and you're equally a murderer if you murder someone in your house. So from a point of view of ethics, I see no distinction between commerce and personal rights. And if you're going to put people in jail for discriminating in the business world, well, then you should, if you're going to be logically consistent, put them in jail for discriminating in the personal life. And if you're not going to put them in jail for or use legal sanctions against them personally, like in the heterosexual, homosexual case, well, then you shouldn't do it either in the business world.
Well, my argument, my response to
question?
No, because my response would be to why is it necessary to file papers when you start a business in this country as opposed to when you make a sexual preference or when you have a sexual preference? I mean, we don't have to register. We're not engaged in commerce when we are heterosexual. We are not. We are not using public resources in any way when we're engaged. I mean, there's fundamentally a difference between who I choose to sleep with, unless I was a brothel, in which case, then I am engaging in commerce. But the idea that there's no difference between commerce and choosing who I associate with in my personal life I'm afraid I just don't even know how to respond to that. And there's no difference between anything.
Well, I think there are differences between lots of things, but I don't think there's any legal difference here. First of all, I don't think you should have to file any papers in the laissez faire society. You wouldn't have to file papers to open up a business. And let's forget about the fact that Woolworths was a corporation. Let's suppose it was just a mom-and-pop shop, not a corporation, because that gets us off the point. The point is Ethics is ethics is ethics. And if something is heinous and wrong in one context, then it's heinous and wrong in another context. And just because I'm conflating these two, namely saying that there's not a dime's worth of difference between them, namely between the personal and the commercial, doesn't mean that I don't draw other distinctions. I draw plenty of distinctions, but I don't draw this distinction with regard to the law. Now, I think it's equally despicable, or very despicable, what the Clippers guy did, and I think it's despicable what the Woolworths did, but that's not the question I'm addressing. I'm addressing the question of, should they be put in jail? And here's where you're missing my point. We all agree the Clippers guy should not be put in jail for his thought crime or for his sentiments, but according to the Civil Rights Act of 1964, anyone doing that, look, if I put up a sign on my store saying no Jews or dogs or blacks or gays allowed in my store, I'll go to jail.
Yes.
And that is a violation of the law of freedom of association, and freedom of association is what distinguishes slavery from non-slavery, so this is an improper law.
Wait a second. What is the law of freedom of association? I mean, when we're talking about, I guess I mean, if you don't see a difference between commerce and in your parallel universe, Woolworths did not have to file papers, or mom and pop does not have to file papers with the local board of health to have their restaurant. I mean, unfortunately, I mean that's the case. Now, I suppose if we were to live in Walter Blockistan, where you don't have to file those papers and whatnot, there wouldn't be a distinction between commercial activity and personal relations, but we do. And I don't know anywhere, whether it's Singapore or Hong Kong, where you don't have to do those things. And so where is this place that exists? Does it exist anywhere in the world?
Sam, let me get off the point a little. I won't answer your question for a second, but I will. If you ever want me on your show again, you're going to have to treat me more fairly, otherwise I won't come on your show. And I enjoy you. I enjoy talking to you, so I would advise you, if you want me to be on your show again, to let me speak and not interrupt me. Okay, now back to your question. I love that Walter Blockistan. That was really a fine point on your part. Look, I think you're switching the subject. If you want to talk about the FDA, Food and Drug Administration, and you want to talk about the need to control business because of food and drugs or whatever, that's a whole topic, and we should probably talk about that some other time if you ever invite me on your show and if ever I agree to be on your show again. But let's suppose that it's a mom-and-pop store and you don't have to file any papers. And, in Cuba, what's going on in Cuba right now is that people now, for the first time, are able to invite guests to their home and feed them dinner and charge them for it. I'm not sure if you're aware, but that's the fact. That they're opening up commerce a little bit. Okay, so here's some guy. Previously, it was just, Jose's house, or Jose and Maria's house, and now Jose and Maria open up their house and they say, hey, come on in, we'll serve you dinner, and we'll charge you for it. And they have a little sign that no Jews allowed, let's say. Now, in my Blockistan, I would say they should not go to jail for that. It's not nice. I'm Jewish. You're Jewish. We don't like that. We don't like it not only for Jews, but for anybody. But do they have that right? And if they don't have that right, they should be put in jail for it. And I say that there's no real difference, not a dime's worth of difference, to get back to the Alabama governor on that, between who they go to bed with and who they have in their house.
I mean, I think there are probably a lot of factors in Cuba and a lot of other ways that you can go to jail as well that we would disagree with. So I'm not sure what the point is. But in this country, it's not just the FDA. The fact of the matter is that if you're engaging in commerce, you have to do so in a way that does not deprive people of an ability to engage in commerce based upon their race. I mean, and I understand on the basis on which you find that problematic, because you don't think that there's a difference between commerce and personal sexual orientation. I mean, I think that's I think to a certain extent, you know, this country has rejected that. I don't know any country that has accepted it. I don't know, frankly, in Cuba, if you could publicly say that you can discriminate based upon that. I don't know. I'm not sure that you know.
No, I actually don't know.
So maybe it is the case even in Cuba. You can't do that without going to jail. I mean, so I'm not sure what the value of that example is, but you know, one of the things that I've found frustrating over the years about libertarians is that they have decided on a set of principles that they want our society to work on. They would be largely rejected by people, and I don't know, you know, how it's more ethical to deny people, at the very least, commerce, the ability to engage fully in the economy. I just don't see how that's the case. But, you know, I guess it's a different set of ethics. And I don't know how that's even sort of like beneficial to the economy in any way.
Well, it seems to me that justice is justice is justice, and justice is blind, and justice should work in every nook and cranny of our society, and it shouldn't make any invidious distinctions between the personal and the commercial. And if something is right in the commercial, it should be right in the personal, and if something is right in the personal, it should be right in the commercial, and vice versa. If it's wrong in the commercial, it should be wrong in personal, and again, vice versa. I don't see how you make such a gigantic difference, and you're willing to put people in jail for something in the commercial realm, but not in the personal realm.
Do you think that we should abolish the notion? I mean, if someone's a corporation in this country, if someone works at a corporation, and they're engaged in something like, I don't know, let's just use the case of GM, knowingly not recalling these cars, which led to the deaths of some people. Do you believe the executives of GM should be put in jail for what would otherwise be a crime of at least maybe manslaughter, negligence, knowingly allowing people to buy their vehicles that would put them in jail?
Well, there are two questions. One, if they knew of, what do you call it, a smoking bomb? No, a ticking bomb.
Yes, let's presume they did know, because I think that's what the evidence shows. But go ahead.
Right. Well, ticking bombs, if you know of a ticking bomb and it's in your product, oh yes, they should be penalized very severely.
They should go to jail as individuals.
Well, of course, the corporation can't go to jail. The corporation is sort of a legal construct. There would have to be certain individuals. If they knew of a ticking bomb, they should be dealt with severely, individually. You know, I'm not sure which individuals, you know, the president or whoever. But this leads to a much broader question, and that is the economics of it. And that is, you can always make the car a little safer by another $10 per part. And if you keep doing it, you get a Mercedes, which means that it's very, very safe, but nobody can afford it, and then they go on a bicycle, and then they get killed on a bicycle more quickly than on a car. So the question is, you know, what is the optimal safety versus money trade-off? And here I think the free enterprise system is not only is the best and perhaps only way to do it. If you do it by the government, you're going to get much worse situations. I mean, if the government nationalized cars, we would have the what is it, the Lada or something that they did in the Soviet Union, which just sort of fell apart. So there are really two issues. One, if you know of a ticking bomb and you don't tell anyone about it, then that's very legally problematic. But the other is, you know, what combination of safety and money should there be? And here I think only the market can determine that.
Right. So, I mean, I guess maybe we've taken this as far as we can go today. Is there anything you want to you want to finish with? And also, I encourage you to actually to calculate how many minutes you got versus how many minutes I got. I think you'll find you got better than 10%.
Oh, I'm sure I got better than 10%. I was just using that as a hypothetical. No, I think overall, you know, this is our first shot at it, and I enjoyed talking to you. I enjoy debating people, and I think you're a very bright person, and I'd like to continue. And if we do, I'm sure we'll do better next time.
We'll try. We'll try.
Okay.
Professor Walter Block from the Joseph A. Butt College of Business at Loyola University, thank you so much for your time today.
Thanks for having me on your show. Take care.
Bye-bye.